Hey, what's up, everybody? So, it is possible you may have noticed that I tried to go a little live a few minutes ago or hours ago, depending on when this video actually gets uploaded. Here's the thing. Some of you may not know this, but some months ago, I decided to start doing a weekly podcast of my own making, and well, I never really got around to it, and I've almost about forgotten it, and I only just thought about it because I was scrolling through my upload history from like months and months ago, and I noticed that guess what, I actually said that, and then I thought to myself, what's the problem if I do that? Why can't I just find some time and sit my ass down and just discuss certain things for half an hour or 45 minutes, maybe even an hour? What's the harm in that? So, that's exactly what I decided to do, since, well, no particular reason, but this is my first attempt at a podcast, and I really hope things go well. Now, the reason why I went live for a few seconds earlier today, or yesterday, depending on when you actually watch this, I tried to do a live podcast because that's the thing to do these days, and it turns out that my internet connection here is terrible, just completely awful, and well, I am aware of that. I have been for a while, but yeah, I really need to work on that, and maybe, hopefully, someday in the future, I can do a live podcast the way I wanted to, the way everyone else does it as well. But for now, I'll just stick to a recorded podcast to maybe kind of take the load off and, just talk to you guys, because you guys are amazing, by the way. And I'm gonna be you're gonna be hearing a lot of clicks while I'm doing this, because I'm gonna be checking some things while we're doing this. By the way, I have noticed there has been a pretty significant rise in the number of subscribers recently, which is very good to know, very reassuring. It almost makes me think like somebody actually likes me. So yeah, that's very good. About a month ago, we were at 107 subscribers for about a month or two, and then in just less than 30 days, we've already skipped ahead to 116. So that's amazing. I mean, I've only just noticed that it's become 116 today. Last night it was 150. Awesome, super awesome. Cannot thank you guys enough. And since, well, I'm assuming that there's a bunch of new people who are now subscribed to the channel, I figured maybe I should just, I figured that could be an extra reason why I would want to do this podcast with you guys, to show a little bit of an insight to my regular day-to-day life. I'm still going to do my vlogs every once in a while. I'm not forgetting those. It's just, in podcasts, you get to talk about so many other things, and you can make them a lot longer. So, I'm really liking this idea, and hopefully it works out. It could just fall flat on its face, but I'm going to do 2 or 3 of those and see how well they hold up. So, by the way, I cannot promise that I'm going to do these on a regular weekly basis, because I have a very odd work schedule. I am sometimes here, sometimes not, so don't expect me to make any promises as far as specific dates. I'm just gonna do these podcasts whenever I can, and hopefully I can do these things once a week, and we could just discuss some of the bigger issues floating around the stratosphere. By the way, I made myself a cup of tea to sort of help me through it, but the thing is, I made it before I tried to go live and handle these technical problems, and well, it's a bit colder now, so whatever. Anyway, so it's a brand new week, I guess. The 10th of the 10th, October 10th, as you may have noticed if you've been checking your calendars lately. What is new? Let's see. First of all, let me just open this straight off the top. I've watched the first episode of Series 11 of Doctor Who, as I'm sure a lot of other people around the world did, because that's when, the show premiered a few days ago. I'm liking this first episode so far. I'm really liking the new Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. I love Chris Chibnall's new direction for the franchise going forward. And by the way, you can finally get to see my keyboard that I'm going to use to catch up on some stuff. Let's see what happened this week as far as anything significant. Well, other than Doctor Who. If you're interested, let me know in the comments what you think of this new Doctor Who era. Do you like the fact that the Doctor is a woman now? Do you like the fact that she's got a brand new sonic screwdriver? By the way, I'm not gonna spoil anything. You'll just have to watch the episode. I did actually make a review on this new episode of Doctor Who. The problem is, well, I've worked on it for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I finally finished it last night. Well, actually it was this morning at about 6 a.m. and I uploaded it, and I went to sleep for about 4 or 5 hours. That's, by the way, there's some noise from outside. Don't bother with that too much. And around the time I woke up, the video finally actually finished uploading, and guess what? The BBC took it down. Well, they didn't exactly took it down, they just blocked it worldwide for copyright reasons. So I just deleted the review and sort of re-edited I remade it with without some of the things that the BBC stated they were having problems with. So I've uploaded it again. It's currently at 18% because, once again, my internet sucks. So it's gonna take a while, but that's the best I can do. Hopefully they won't take it down again, and you guys can finally see my personal opinions on this new episode of Doctor Who. And if it works out, I'm hoping that I could do more of these Doctor Who episode reviews, because Doctor Who is my favorite show of all time, bar none. Absolutely, just I can't even explain how much I love this show. I have watched every single episode of the show twice. All the way from the black and white episodes from 63, which also includes some of the missing episodes where it was just a bunch of pictures and some words underneath it. All the way up to right now. I really am the ultimate fan of Doctor Who, even if I do say so myself. So, other than Doctor Who, what else happened this week? Venom. Venom just opened. Shocked everybody, by the way. It has a very well, not a lot of people liked it, especially the critics. It didn't really get any good reviews, so my expectations were very low going into it, but I went to it anyways, and surprise, surprise, I liked it. And I said as much in my Venom review. Also a review that I've worked on for a very long time, and it just kicked my ass. I mean, seriously, that was one of the hardest reviews I've ever had to do. Until then, the Doctor Who review came, and it was even more difficult. But I said as much in the Venom review. I really liked it, and for further details, check my Venom review if you haven't already. But surprise, surprise, though, and forgive me, I think I need to change this shirt because I'm really getting itchy, and I really don't want you guys to spend most of this podcast watching me itching my butt. So I'm going to try to refrain from that as much as possible. But, when you gotta scratch, you gotta scratch. So I really hope I can avoid that for as long as I can. So, Venom opened to a very surprising $80 million domestic at the box office, which blew away other people's expectations. Hold on, let me just open Box Office Mojo, because yes, that's a thing now. That's how you measure the success of certain movies. It's currently on 89 domestic, going on 90, and it's made about 127 million world foreign. So it's about at 217 worldwide total, which is good on a production budget of 100 million, and who knows what they spend on the marketing. So I'm guessing it's reaching the area where it's starting to be profitable, and that movie's going to make money, which is good. I mean, you want movies you liked to make money. I certainly liked it. I don't know what you guys think about it, but I really enjoyed it, and I'd be happy to see a sequel with Carnage, and hopefully maybe one day Spider-Man could show up in the next Venom movie. Who knows? But the fact that it's making money is just all the better, and hopefully Sony will realize that they can start their own cinematic universe. Because, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but they're trying to make their own cinematic universe. It's kind of next to Marvel, but a little bit separate. The Venom movie was just the first movie in the chain. They're about to start filming a Michael Morbius movie with Jared Leto. They're working on a team-up movie with Black Cat and Silver Sable. What else? They were planning a Night Watch movie at one point. I don't know what's going on with that movie anymore. They're also planning a Kraven the Hunter movie, which, yeah, I mean, Kraven's never been one of my favorite Spider-Man characters, but a lot of people seem to like Kraven for whatever reason, so I really hope this movie gets made, for nothing else than to satisfy the hardcore Kraven fans. Speaking of Spider-Man, have you guys seen any of the leaked Spider-Man Far From Home photos? So yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home, the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm really sensing a pattern of homes in these new Spider-Man movies. I'm not even going to bother to put these images on the screen because, once again, I was planning to do a live podcast where I would just show these random things on the screen, but until I get a much better connection over here, and maybe hopefully I can learn a little bit better how to work on these live things, I'm going to refrain from doing that and instead just focus on talking to you guys. You guys don't even have to watch me. You can just listen to me if you like. I believe that's how podcasts work. So, hold on, let me just look up the pictures so that I can speak to you guys about them in real time. Sorry, apologies. Hold on. The hell is going on out there? And they literally had to pick specifically right now to make all this noise outside. Isn't that just annoying, right? Whoops, that's not what I was looking for. Where's the Spider-Man pictures? So anyway, I can't find them at the moment, but hold on. Sorry about that. I had a phone call. Won't happen again. I turned my phone off. Now no one can bother me while I'm doing these things. I'm looking at you, Mom. So anyway, the leaked photos, by the way, that I've missed somehow, which is completely possible, but it's basically Jake
Gyllenhaal, the star of such films as Donnie Darko and The Day After Tomorrow and a bunch of other things. Yeah, there it is. It's basically he's playing Mysterio in this movie. What is that sound? Hold on. There we go. Nice and quiet. Am I right? Oh, let me just... Why? Anything have to go wrong during filming? I mean, really, what's the deal with that? Well, I guess I can't come out of this now. I'm starting to think this whole thing was a mistake to begin with, but yeah. So, Jake Gyllenhaal is playing Mysterio, my all-time favorite Spider-Man villain of all time. Even more than the Green Goblin, even more than Venom. So, you see some pictures of Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio without the iconic fishbowl head. And, oh, come on. Right, so, we've had problems with the live streaming. Apparently I can't live stream just yet. I had a phone call. I can't find the photos I'm looking for. The computer is making noises. The neighbors are making noises. And now apparently there was a knock at the door. And I needed to go and answer it. Clearly I need to find a better place to live in. And by the way, this is all within the limits of the first 20 minutes of this video. And it's mind-blowing how everything goes wrong in a few minutes. It's crazy to me. I mean, it's like the universe is trying to tell me something that I can't really quite wrap my head around. And I'm talking loud because I'm waiting for the noise from outside to go down a bit and we could all go back to our regularly scheduled program. So, I think I need to drop this Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio bit. You probably have already looked up the images by now. Hold on, let me. You can find a better one here. Okay, I haven't seen that one. And I'm talking as if you guys can actually see what I'm looking at, but basically, it's you see Jake Gyllenhaal in some practical metallic suit with lots of lights on it, and the iconic purple cape, only a little bit more extravagant this time around. And there was a leaked photo of his best friend Ned, and what looked like Betty Brant, and they were sitting at a restaurant, at a cafe, I believe, and there was someone with this female wig and a completely bleached face that looked like a mask, and a lot of people are just quickly assuming that it's the Chameleon, another iconic Spider-Man villain. Actually, a lot of people don't know this. This Chameleon, it was actually the first Spider-Man villain ever, way back in The Amazing Spider-Man #1 in 1962, I believe. So yeah, the Chameleon in Spider-Man Far From Home. Not the main villain. The main villain is probably going to be Mysterio, but yeah, people are already complaining that Spider-Man Far From Home already has too many villains in it. Why? Didn't they learn anything from Spider-Man 3? Didn't they learn anything from Amazing Spider-Man 2? You can't have too many villains in a Spider-Man movie. Well, Spider-Man Homecoming had 5 villains in it. And it worked. And that's my take on it. I mean, seriously, just count them. You've had, obviously, the Vulture. You've had the Tinkerer. You've had 2, not 1, but 2 Shockers. You've had Mac Gargan. Obviously, if you know the comics, he's the Scorpion. And that's 5. And technically, from a really small role in this movie, you've had the Prowler, played by Donald Glover. So yeah, that's 6 villain characters in a Spider-Man movie. And it's amazing. It's the best, in my honest opinion, that's the best Spider-Man movie ever. So, just cool down with all the, too many villains in a Spider-Man movie don't work. Well, remind me again, how many villains were in Avengers Infinity War? 5 or 6, again. You've had, obviously Thanos. You've had the Black Order. That's 4 villains already. That's Cull Obsidian, Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, and Ebony Maw. That's 5 villains with Thanos. You've had the Outriders, the army of creatures. And technically, if you want to look at it that way, you also had Red Skull. Yeah, so yeah, that's 7 villains, if you count the army as 1 villain. So yeah, this whole notion that multiple villains in comic book movies don't work, yeah, that, just throw it out the window. I mean, I'm wearing a Captain America shirt, by the way. Do anybody know how many villains are in the Captain America movies? Anyone? Well, let's go over it this way. So, Captain America, the first Avenger, had obviously Red Skull and Arnim Zola. That's 2. Mix it with the Hydra army. That's, I believe you can technically classify it as 3. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, obviously had the Winter Soldier. That's pretty obvious. You've had Robert Redford's character, Alexander Pierce. You had the returning Arnim Zola. That's 4. You've had, what's his name? Crossbones. Brock Romlo. That's 4. And you've had the Hydra Strike Team, which technically is a bunch of
guys. And you also had George St. Pierre playing Batroc, George Batroc the Leaper. That's 5. And I'm just talking about 5 individuals. Clearly, you can do a movie with a lot of villains in it. So yeah. Multiple villains in a comic book movie is not a bad thing. Thor Ragnarok, for example, you had... well, technically you had Scourge, but he turned out to be a good guy at the end. You had Hela, you've had... what's his face? Surtur. You've had the Grand Master and Topaz. See? That easily works. Black Panther. You've had Eric Killmonger. You've had Claw, Killmonger's girlfriend, which was, by the way, a throwaway, wasted character. Technically, you had M'Baku, but once again, he also turned out to be a good guy. So you can have bad guys that start out bad, but end up being good at the end of the movie, and that perfectly works. And he doesn't even have to be the main character. So yeah, anyone who tells you that too many villains in a comic book movie doesn't work, clearly they don't know what they're talking about. And I can just keep on listing a few other movies. Technically, you can also bring up Batman vs. Superman, which didn't quite work, and that had a plethora of villains in it. You had obviously Lex Luthor, you've had Doomsday, Mercy Graves, the KG Beast. You had a bunch of villain bad guys in the movie, and that didn't work. But again, that's just an example of a movie trying to do too much. I guess when a movie that has a lot of villains in it doesn't work, because the movie itself isn't really all that particularly well made, people just assume that it's because of the villains stuff. People are saying that, oh, that movie had more than one villain in it. That's the reason why it failed. No, it failed because of the script, because of the direction, because maybe the actors didn't fully commit. It failed because of a lot of things. It did not fail because of the villains. I'm sorry, that's just the reality. The villains could have been a bit of a downer on the movie, but ultimately it didn't really affect it all that much. I've mentioned the example of Spider-Man 3, for example, where you've had technically the New Goblin, Sandman, and Venom. Again, I mean, the movie itself didn't really work all that well, and it's not because of the villains stuff. I think Venom was done okay with what the material they had to work with him, but Sam Raimi clearly didn't really want to have Venom in it. Sony just forced him to put Venom in it, and he clearly didn't want to, so he just put them there as a side note, and he really wanted to focus on Sandman being the villain. And Sandman himself was very well made as a villain, in my opinion. It's just that movie had a lot of other stuff, like the obvious emo Peter Parker dancing in the street, and just the horribleness that was that mess of a movie. Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 also had a lot of villains in it, but it wasn't because there was a lot of villains in it. It was because Sony didn't really knew what they were doing with that movie. They were trying to set up a lot of things. They were cramming a bunch of stuff in it and piling on top of each other. And by the way, I liked The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I didn't hate it like other people do. I've had a lot of fun with that movie, but again, I realize it kind of fails as a Spider-Man movie, and I accept that. So yeah, the villain problem is not a problem. Let's just stay clear of that. So, what else happened this week? Wow, I really just went out on a rant with that. So, what else? Oh, yeah. By the way, mark your calendars, people. It has finally happened. Hold on. Let me just try to set the mood. And I really hope this works this time. Hold on. I'm gonna try something potentially damning, especially considering all the problems we've had in this podcast so far. Hold on. Hold on. Wow, I really suck at this, don't I? You guys probably don't even remember who I am by now because I've been doing this for too long. Hold on. Where was I going with that? There we go. So, mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen, because it has finally happened. Our prayers have been answered. What am I talking about? Well, why don't I just let you hear it and decide for yourselves? Let's stop it at 18 seconds for now. Yes, it is true. Disney has finally announced that they're making a live-action Lilo and Stitch movie. A live-action Lilo and Stitch movie. Hold on. Give me a second. I'll be right back. Oh, hi. It's Stitch! And it's my, Disney Infinity figure. Wow, that's just full of dust. Shows you how much I haven't played this game in a while. Wow. But, yeah. It's Stitch! And he's getting his own movie! Finally! Well, he already had his own movie, which was, in my opinion, one of the most underrated. Okay, and the mistakes just keep on piling up. I have no idea what happened this time. The recording just stopped. Hold on. Oh yeah, it's back up again. So, the recording just stopped. Maybe I've got too much videos on this thing. I need to do some house cleaning. But yeah, Stitch, and he's getting his own movie. Finally. Like I already said, he already has his own movie. It's called Lilo and Stitch, and it's amazing. And it's one of my favorite Disney movies of all time, and one of the best Disney franchises of all time, because they had a bunch of direct-to-video sequels, and it spawned 2 TV shows. Yes, 2. A Disney animated show and an anime series that lasted for 5 seasons, believe it or not. So yeah, Stitch. I really am excited for this. I I can't tell you how. I'm thrilled about it. I'm over the moon about it. I've been wanting a live-action Lilo and Stitch for a while now, and since they've started making these live-action adaptations, one of them, the ones on my mind was
Lilo and Stitch. I mean, I loved their live-action version of Cinderella. I loved their live-action Jungle Book. I loved their live-action Beauty and the Beast. I loved all the ones that I've seen. I haven't seen Maleficent. I didn't see any of the Alice in Wonderland ones. I didn't watch those because I heard they're terrible. So why would I waste my time on it? But maybe I will watch those eventually, just to not stay out of the conversation. But Lilo and Stitch is definitely something I'm looking forward to. Now, from what I've heard, it's not clear as of now if they're planning to do this on their upcoming streaming service, which comes out next year, or if they're going to release it on theaters, but it's definitely coming. And yeah, speaking of the Disney streaming service, the first Disney announced they're making is a live-action, and I'm not even joking, a live-action Lady and the Tramp. Again, one of my favorite Disney classics. I used to watch it all the time, sometimes even with my dog. I used to just grab my dog and just hug her and pet her during while I was watching Lady and the Tramp. I love this movie so much. I love dogs so much, and yeah, I am willing to acknowledge that it has a few dated racial stereotypes in it, but for the most part, I think the movie still works and it holds up till this very day. And also, speaking of the Disney streaming service, another thing that was recently announced that was going to happen on that streaming service, The Mandalorian, the brand new Star Wars live-action TV show. Yes, Disney is actually producing a live-action Star Wars TV show. Arguably the first of its kind, if you don't count some of the lower budgeted ones from the 80s. Yeah, and it's being produced and showrun by Jon Favreau, the director of Iron Man, as well as other movies like I Love You Man, and the previously mentioned Jungle Book, and the upcoming Lion King live-action adaptation. This is amazing. And by the way, for those of you who don't know what a Mandalorian is, Mandalorians are a race of warriors from the planet Mandalore. They have this whole culture and society that's very, very fascinating. They've been at war with the Jedi for generations. At the time of the Old Republic, during then in the sort of the prequel era, they even before the prequel era, I believe they lost some big war to the Republic, which left a majority of their planet a desolate wasteland. But they still somehow managed to maintain their rich culture. They sort of went away from wars, and they decided to be more of a. Decided to focus more on arts, even though some factions of Mandalorians decided to rebel against that philosophy and go back to being a warlike race. It's a very, very fascinating story with the Mandalorians, and some very notable Mandalorians include Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels, as well as Fen Rao, and even Jon Favreau himself. He voiced a Mandalorian on the Clone Wars animated show. He voiced Pre Vizsla, the leader of Death Watch, and his sidekick, second in command, let's call it that way, Bo-Katan, was voiced by Katie Sackhoff of Battlestar Galactica fame, and she was recently on the previous season of The Flash, and yeah, I'm very excited for this thing. By the way, I know that a bunch of guys are gonna scream at me at the comments if they actually ever watch this mistake-ridden video, but a lot of people still think that Boba Fett and Jango Fett are Mandalorians. Unfortunately, even though I thought that for a very long time, that is not true, and George Lucas himself insisted
on that point. This is not me making it up. This is not Disney retconning anything. This is not something new. George Lucas insisted on the fact that Jango Fett was not a Mandalorian. He was a regular bounty hunter that just killed a Mandalorian and stole his armor. And that's the armor you see in Attack of the Clones, which I can only assume that he then passed on to his clone son, Boba Fett. Even though I believe Fett is actually a Mandalorian surname, I'm not sure. I think actually the Fetts are one of the were one of the biggest ruling families of the Mandalorian culture. But then again, I guess Jango could have just stolen that name, or maybe it's part of the old canon, which is now considered Legends. But yeah, if George Lucas decided that was the fate of the character he created, I mean, there's no arguing with that. Jango Fett and Boba Fett are not Mandalorians, and that's just the sad truth of the matter. So, yeah. Speaking of The Flash, the first episode dropped recently. Hold on. Unfortunately, I must have missed it because I was so busy doing other stuff, like watching Doctor Who, and then working on the review on it. Again, what's wrong with me? Hold on. If I'm not mistaken, the DCCW shows are now back in full force, and the first two shows that have come back on the air. Yep, The Flash, the premiere episode was broadcast last night, so maybe I could find a way to watch it today. Maybe it's on Netflix. I'll check it out later. But yeah, the first episode, Nora, original air date October 9th, which was yesterday, and I believe the other CW show that went back on the air was Black Lightning. I don't know if I've mentioned this in any of my other videos. I did not care for Black Lightning as much as other people did, and I really hope people don't misquote me and start coming up with some stupid stories of how I'm racist and because I didn't like Black Lightning. I never said I hated Black Lightning. It's just I was not a fan. I think I mean, I get what they were trying to do, what they were going for, and good on them for telling that story the way they
wanted to do it. It's just, I think, and I'm being honest right now, I think Luke Cage did it better. I'm sorry. That's just the reality. I think the show took some violent turns when it didn't need to. And yeah, I think it needed to be Luke Cage, and it wasn't. But a lot of people don't share my opinions, and I'm okay with it. People are allowed to think what they
want, and if they love Black Lightning, then good for them. What else? Oh,
Krypton. So yeah, Krypton is how many days away is Krypton season 2? The reason I'm bringing Krypton, they just recently cast Lobo, which was amazing. Hold on. There we go. Really hope the video didn't stop. Right, so
Emmett J. Scanlon as Lobo,
the everyone's favorite bounty hunter, Zarnian, or Zarnian bounty hunter, whatever you whichever one you prefer. It doesn't say here when the season 2 is gonna come back, but yeah, Krypton was a show that I really enjoyed. A lot of people I know said to me that they were not excited for the show at all. Like, seriously, nothing in the show sounded appealing to them. But once they actually went and watched it, they really, really became one of their favorite new superhero shows. So I decided to give it a try as well.
I'm shocked at how much I love this this season. I mean,
I don't know if you guys can see. Oh wait, I moved it. The Big Ben Lego thing that I had. I really was behind on building it, so I just sat down and watched and just binged all the episodes of Krypton while I was building that thing. I've watched like 4 or 5 episodes straight, and it was over the course of an entire night. I haven't slept an entire night. I was just building I was just sitting here building Lego and watching Krypton for just hours and hours and hours. So yeah, I can't wait for Krypton, especially since now that okay, this is getting ridiculous. So I'm looking at the time codes of all the videos that I've recorded so far. This video has gone about more than 45 minutes, which is shocking. I didn't really expect we'd get to 45 minutes this fast. So I guess I'm gonna just spend the next 10 minutes talking about whatever else I may have missed, and we'll just call it a day because I got somewhere I need to be at 7 p.m. So and it's about an hour from now, so I really have to get ready. So I've been looking at some of the other stuff. Nothing too new, despite the fact that it was New York City Comic-Con recently. By the way, how amazing was that Aquaman trailer? Seriously, did you guys watch that? That was a 5-minute trailer, and I wanted more. I mean, Aquaman is one of my favorite characters of all time, and I don't care what people think about him. I just ignore those. Aquaman is awesome, and people who don't think that clearly have never read an Aquaman comic, and they don't know the rich history and mythology that character has. So yeah, Aquaman is amazing. Go watch the Aquaman movie when it comes out. What else? I went back to watching The Lion Guard recently. I don't know why I decided to mention it at the end of the video, but yeah, I've been watching The Lion Guard for a while now, and they have this weird and
somewhat questionable release schedule for their episodes. They release like 4 episodes weekly, once every 3 months. Yeah, I'm kind of scratching my head over it as well. They have this just 1 month where they release 1 episode a week, and then there's like 3 months of nothing, like dead air, and then they drop 4 more episodes week after week after week after week, and then they make you wait another. I don't know what the hell's the deal with that. Hold on, let me just check. I really hope the video doesn't cut off again, because this is really getting on my nerves. Hang on, the Lion Guard. By the way, if you guys don't know what the Lion Guard is, let me just give you the brief, abridged version. It's a Disney Junior show about Simba's son. Yeah, remember Simba from The Lion King? They made a show about his son. And yes, Simba has a son. People don't believe me when I tell them that. He actually had 2 sons. 2 sons and a daughter. His oldest son, Copa, was introduced in a book that I cannot remember the name right now, but he was basically he fell in love with Zira's daughter, Vitani, around the time where Kiara was just a really tiny cub, before she could speak, I believe. And, well, Zira really didn't like it, so she murdered him. She forbidden Vitani to go meet with him, and she just she didn't tell anyone that. Well, I think I must have butchered the actual story, but basically, Vitani and Copa were seeing each other regularly. One day, Zira find out. She forbid Vitani to go there. She didn't tell her why. She just told her not to go, and she went in her stead, and she just killed Copa and left him there to die. Well, obviously. And then Simba found the body, and he went to the Badlands. Had a big argument with Zira. Yeah, it was a whole thing. So yeah, Simba had a son called Copa. Then he had, by the way, Copa is the one you see at the very end of The Lion King, where Rafiki holds him up in Pride Rock.
So yeah, that's Copa. That's not Kiara. You can tell, first of all, because his fur is different. It's much more yellowish, a lot more like Simba's coat of fur. And Kiara is a bit more sort of light pink, almost beige tone of color, a lot more similar to Nala. And I believe that their eyes are different. I'm not sure, but that's what I remember. So yeah, that's Copa, and you can see him at the very end of the first Lion King. At the beginning of Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, you see the ceremony of Nala's introduction, where Rafiki holds her up. Well, that should be your first clue right there, because at the very end of the Lion King, you see Simba, Nala, Timon, and Pumbaa all standing on Pride Rock, and Rafiki shows up with Copa. Lion King 2, it's completely different. You see Rafiki standing alone on Pride Rock, and Simba and Nala show up with Kiara, and they present Kiara to Rafiki. Then he holds her up, and Timon and Pumbaa are somewhere behind that. So yeah, that's basically it. Sorry if I shattered any childhoods, but that's just the thing. Also, Kiara was presented to the rest of the Pride Land during sunrise, and when Copa was presented at the end of The Lion King, it was already daytime. So there's no argument there. There was definitely 2 coronations that in that franchise that we see, at least. And one of them is Simba's first son. The second is Simba's first daughter, well, only daughter. And then there's Copa, and then there's Kion. Sorry, Kion is the main focal point of the show. He was born, I believe, a little bit after Copa was killed. And basically, the Lion Guard is this sort of a royal guard of specially trained lions. 5, to be precise. There's the fiercest, the bravest, the fastest, the strongest, and the keenest of sight. It's been going on for generations, ever since the first... well, not the first ruler of Pride Rock, but ever since the rule of Ascari, which is a great grandfather of Mufasa. So, he was the one that started the guard, and the reason why you never heard about it in the actual Lion King movie was because the guard goes like this. There's always going to be 2 lions in the Pride Lands. There's the king, the oldest, who rules over everything. In this case, Mufasa, and his sibling is the leader of the Lion Guard, also known as the fiercest of all the lions, which was Scar at that point. And as we know, Scar is, well, Scar. By the way, the fiercest lion, which is the leader of the Lion Guard, is bestowed a special gift from the kings of the past. He's given a super ultra powerful roar that it's so powerful it can literally just tear away trees from the ground. It's like a hurricane, or a tornado, I should say, and it can even affect the weather at certain conditions. So yeah, Scar, being Scar, wrongly abused the power bestowed upon him by the elders. He wanted to use it to take control of the Pride Lands and overthrow Mufasa. The rest of the Lion Guard did not approve of that, so they went against him, and he used the roar to kill them all, which really angered the elder lions, so they stripped him of his power. Another good reason why Scar hates Mufasa so much. And, well, since Simba didn't really have time to have a brother, because I believe Mufasa died before he could progenate. So yeah, Simba never had a brother, so there was never really a successor to the Lion Guard. Then Simba had his second son, Kion, the brother of Kiara, who was destined to be the queen because she's the oldest, and he was given the roar of the elders. He assembled a team that was the first ever Lion Guard that was not comprised of all lions. He bestowed the power of the Lion Guard on his friends. He's the fiercest because he's the leader. The bravest is his best friend Bunga, the honey badger, who technically is kind of Simba's brother because he was adopted by Timon and Pumbaa after they defeated Scar and everything.
So yeah, he's the bravest in the Lion Guard. The fastest is Fuli, the cheetah, obviously. The strongest is Beshti, the hippo. And the keenest of sight is Ono, the egris. For those of you who don't know what an egris is, it's a type of a bird. So yeah, I'm looking at the release date now. It's on its second season now. And I believe it has a third season on the way because Ernie Sabala, who by the way is the voice of Pumbaa, and by the way he actually voiced Pumbaa in pretty much every other incarnation of the Lion King except the live action one. He's been the voice of Pumbaa for almost 25 years. That guy. He's the only actor to play the same Lion King character in every single incarnation, minus the live action one. Funny thing though, the only original Lion King actor who came back to voice to reprise his role in the live action one was James Earl Jones as Mufasa. Funny how that works. Anyway, so it's currently on its 24th episode, The Underground Adventure. And I don't really see any other episodes, even though it clearly says here that Season 2 is going to have 28 episodes. And Season 1 had 26 episodes. But yeah, I believe they're going to have another season, despite a massive drop in viewership. But Ernie Sabala, who, like I mentioned, is the voice of Pumbaa, he did mention that he has finished recording his third season of The Lion Guard. That doesn't necessarily mean that the season is actually going to come out, because he said that a while ago. But animation takes a long time, and yeah, they record these things like way in advance, so I really wouldn't worry about that. So I believe we went a little bit over time, but it's okay. You guys had a lot of fun. You got to see a little bit of an interaction with me. You got to see me on my off days, and yeah, I'm gonna stop this recording before it stops itself again. So really sorry about all the mistakes that happened over here, guys. I'm gonna try to do better next time, but yeah, it almost got cut off again. So I'm gonna work on these problems, and hopefully next time we'll have a much more smooth operation here. So thank you very much. See ya.
Hello again, everybody. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, where I do all kinds of weird stuff like showcase all these things, trailer reactions, movie reviews, all kinds of fun stuff. So, until next time, I'll see you guys next time.